brush a dog or something like that. You know, they may not be able to get the dog that they're talking about and what they want. And then you've got a list of what you want. It's not a suggestion, but what you want. Some dogs want serious. Some people want serious dogs. Some people want goofy dogs because they're depressed and they make them laugh. Where a serious dog is just going to be depressing. It's not going to help them at all when they're feeling down. So something you want to look at and consider what you want. And then here's what the traits that you don't want. Some people like a dog that you have to brush because it soothes them and it interacts with the dog, and they like sitting there and spending the time grooming the dog and things. Some people want dogs that are going to get them out, again, like depression or something like that. The dog, or maybe they want an energetic dog because they're going all day long, and they need an energetic dog that'll keep up with them. These are traits that you want in a dog, that they're comfortable with all sorts of people and don't startle, and all of these are lists of things that you want in a dog. Program dogs, CCI dogs. She said with the CCI they have an excellent matching rate once the dog's passed. So that is really great. Some of the programs, they do personality tests on the people, and they've already done personality tests on the dog, and they want complementary traits like a very outgoing person. If they get a very quiet dog, they're going to overwhelm the dog, and vice versa. If you've got a very outgoing dog, it's just going to overpower a laid-back person, and there'll be a really bad clash between the dog and the handler, and it make life miserable. I've got one that's like that. I didn't like him when I got him. There was that little voice that said, "Not this one." I said, "Oh, but it's a lab. Lab, how can you have, a lab that isn't wonderful?" Well, I have a lab that isn't wonderful, and now I'm stuck with him. And there's hardly a day that goes by. It's like, I wish I didn't have him. So, and I'll keep him, but. It's just that the energy levels, he's a very anxious dog, and it just gets on my nerves. So you got to be careful and consider what you're going to get. The puppy raisers, she said a wide variety, and some of the places out in California, they start with 4-week-old puppies. They're starting to train them. And they can learn all sorts of stuff, and it makes those neural pathways. So if you were looking for a puppy, it might be a good idea, if you know somebody that's breeding a dog, that you go over and you start working with them and things, and you visit with them. Some of them retain ownership. So you don't actually ever own the dog, but they want the dog back. If you can't find another home, it's always a place where you can send the dog back to, which is a very nice safety net to have. Some of the private trainers can't do that. If I did that, well, I don't have many dogs that are, I have one that's been working for over a year, and then the rest of them are owner-trained dogs, so I don't have that problem. If it's a dog that the people already owned, so it's their dog, and I am not responsible for that dog, because the programs, the large programs, they have people that are standing in line a lot of times for these wonderful dogs. And it will take the retired service dogs. So you want to be, that's a nice thing about working with a program. But they may not allow other dogs or pets in the home. They have all these restrictions and things. You want to find out when you're evaluating a program, what's their success rate. If that includes career change dogs, because some of them will, okay, the dog was meant to do this, but he's not cut out for public work, but he's an excellent house helper. So that they count that as a success, because they found something that dog can do. It's not primary, but now it can do this over here, so they'll count that as a success rate to boost up their numbers. So you want to ask about that. You want to ask how long the wait is. There's some of them that it can be 5 years. Some of them it's shorter if you can fundraise. You want to ask about that too. The whole application time and the delivery and all of that, it varies widely from organization to organization. Some of them might have a couple of days turnover time, and other ones like CCI is 2 weeks. And finding out about that is a good idea. Where do you have to go? How much is it going to cost you, etc. And follow-up. If you've got an organization that does not provide follow-up, then it's going to be a little difficult if you, and those are not going to be ADI organizations. They have to have some follow-up. But you get the dog and then you're stuck somewhere and you have no idea what to do. Some of the organizations give priority to previous clients, so the wait might be a little bit longer. There's ones that ask the clients to fundraise, and some of the people, if they're looking for a psychiatric service dog, they may not be in a situation to go out and fundraise. So that might be something that you want to consider. Somebody that needs a service dog but they have no family support, or no friends to help them fundraise. That's a really that's quite a challenge to try and raise $10,000 to $20,000 for a service dog. Some of them do consider that any money that was raised as donations and you don't get it back. The questions that you're going to see from a service dog provider should be pretty extensive, because they're going to want to know a lot about you to make the right match and to train tasks for the dog. So they're going to ask you about your diagnosis and your disability and how does it affect you, what specific tasks you want. They're going to want references from your care team. And this is a form that I use, and it goes out and it explains in detail what you're going to have to consider. And I probably will add more things as I look at different organizations and consider what they have. If it asks about the care and the maintenance, because it can cost a couple of $1,000s a year to support that dog. And can you take care of it? The handler should be the primary caretaker, because if you've got a family member that's taking care of the dog, doing all its brushing and grooming and walking the dog, and all it's doing is working for the person with the disability, if the other person is providing all the fun and the comfort and things like that, it's going to be very distracting from the person with disability that actually needs to work. Okay. So you want to consider that. Okay, girl, stay here. You get $2,000. It can be that much or more if you've got medical expenses. You need to have a plan for exercise. If you are unable to walk your dog, how is that dog going to get exercise and have some fun? Going to dog parks can cause a lot of problems. You've got untrained dogs that may be aggressive, and teach your dog to be aggressive, to act inappropriately in a manner that is not compatible with public access work. So you want to be careful with that, and you want to have a plan. Even with a program dog, it can take a year for you to be a good working team. So you've got to be taking it out. Going on short trips, training trips, you've got to be able to do that. So and even with the program dogs, some of the programs, you can't take your dog out in public for at least a month until you guys have bonded and gotten to know each other. And then you go out on supervised trips, which is one of the reasons that some of the programs only work with clients that are local to them, because they do have all this follow-up. Service Dog Inc., they do weekly follow-up trips for, I think it's a month, and then they do monthly follow-up trips for a number of months after that. So that's why some of them only work locally. You have to have a lot of patience. Karen mentioned that, with all the going out in public and things like that. And they're going to, people talk your ears off, and you got to be able to come up with a good script for leaving. Because if you're running late, and you've got somebody that's running on and on and on, you've got to be able to exit gracefully. And dealing with gatekeepers can be kind of aggravating too. While you're standing there with a copy of the laws in your hand, and they're saying no, 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 you've got to maintain your composure, because if you don't, then you're going to be a very good chance that you're going to affect your dog and how it works in public. If it constantly sees you dealing with these people at the store and getting angry and yelling at people because they say you can't come in, then you've got a chance that that dog, when it comes into the store, is going to start standing tall. It's like, there's going to be aggression going on here, and I better be ready for it. And oh, my person doesn't feel very good. Well, I'm 3 years old now, and I know everything, and I can take care of stuff. So that's a very real chance that can happen. One of the maturity points for a dog. So you've got to be able to be composed and deal with all these people. And you want to be an ambassador every time that you can, because it's by programs only putting out excellent dogs that service dogs got such a good name. The CNI dogs and things like that after World War II and all of that, they were trained excellently. If they had some of the dogs that go out in public now, it may have been much more difficult to have service dogs in public.
Who trained the original CNI dogs? Were they ex-military trainers? Or
I'm
they
not
got
sure.
the
Probably.
organization going? Yeah, it's just interesting. Think about it.
Yeah, I haven't really researched that. Okay, so talking about owner training again. Your dog is going to need to be comfortable, so you want to start them as soon as you can. You want all interactions with puppies to be very good interactions. You don't want any scary people, you don't want any children mishandling them, you don't want to stress them out too much, so you want to be very careful. Small puppies, there's no problem with taking them out. As long as people are washing their hands and things like that. The litter of puppies that I fostered recently, I had them out. They were about 6 weeks old, and I took hand wipes out with me, and I went and found old people, and I found children, and had them wipe their hands and handle, because they hadn't had their shots, and handle the puppies. And so they were seeing things. They were going on car rides. They were meeting all sorts of people, and they ended up being pretty well adjusted so far. And you also don't want to take, even if it's a service dog in training and Florida allows them, you don't want to take them out in public and let them walk on the ground if they don't have good potty habits. So that means that you've got to really, a lot of dogs will have issues up until they're 6 months old, sometimes even longer, with potty training. So you've got to really be on top of things. And you might want to just take them to places like feed stores or something like that, hardware stores that are not quite so, they're more welcoming sometimes to animals rather than a clothing store where a dog might lift their leg or something like that. You don't want to be doing that. Keep everything short and fun and gentle. This is a dog. That's the dog that I was talking about, the lab that I've got. He was at least a year old and been around quite a bit before taking him to Mardi Gras. And then we stayed on the outer edges and gradually worked up and everything, because something like that can really ruin a dog. I had one dog years ago, 30 years or so ago, and we took him to Chinese New Year's, and the fireworks there scared him so bad he was forever after afraid of thunder until he went deaf. And then it was okay.
How old is your lab now?
He's 5.
I've never seen him.
No, because he's not good out in public.
Yeah, so you don't worry.
Yeah, he's got some aggression issues. He has seizures some, and the aggression is idiopathic. He just never knows. He guards stuff, and he never knows if he's going to guard something or not. So
not a good dog for him.
No. But he's great for helping around the house and things. So like Karen mentioned, doing separate trips. You take training trips. You don't plan on taking your 6-month-old dog out for a full grocery shopping trip. And Lisa mentioned that also. You've got to time things. So you've got to be if you've got a client or yourself, and all you can handle is going out in public for 5 minutes, and you've got to do everything in that 5 minutes. That's maybe you don't want to be training your own service dog. As far as your clients that maybe may need to wait a little bit longer and get a little bit further through their treatment and all that before they think about working in service, training their own service dog. This is the golden retriever that's out there, and I measured out the distance that they had for flying in airplanes, and found the under the bed box was about how much room they have on an airplane to fit in. So here's a 70-pound dog that I needed to train how to get into a space that size. So that's the kind of training that they need to do. And that's that unobtrusive public access stuff that they need to be able to do, so they're not laying out in the aisleway of the plane, which they wouldn't be able to do. I got another friend that trained his own service dog, and he used a lot of words that he made up on his own. And should something happen to him, people are not going to be able to know how to get the dog to do anything because they don't know what particular words he trained the dog with. So hopefully, in the next couple of years, he'll write down a list of his commands. Yeah. So that his wife doesn't know all the commands that he uses and things like that. So people can communicate with him. Also, like, you want to watch out what you're doing in public. I had one dog that I was training for possible hearing work, and I was going, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. Some little child in the store said, oh, Mom, look it, that dog's name is Leave It. Like, oh, great, thanks, kid. Good reminder. So these are some of the reminders that you want to keep in mind while you're working with a service dog. Your clients are working with a service dog. Veterans may think it's really entertaining to tell the dog, go out and take a crap, dog. So that's not necessarily something they want to do if they're in a business situation or in a polite, situation. So even though they might find it quite entertaining, they may want to pick something else. Karen found with Lola, she was starting to train her to nudge when she was 6 months old or so, which we decided probably wasn't a good time for her to learn that, because 6 months they're entering into their teenage stage and they're very annoying. She stopped working on that because she was finding that Lola was nudging her for all sorts of reasons that had nothing to do with what she wanted to train to do. So you got to keep that in mind. These are some of the things that you need to keep with you. So especially if you're getting a puppy and taking them out and starting to work with them, you always want to have your cleanup supplies. And also with the pups, you never know. Sometimes they just get sick for no reason. With the golden retriever, he was out and got sick, and I whipped out my easily accessible cleanup bag and stuck it under his mouth so that he didn't throw up in the store, because with your service dogs, you're responsible for cleaning up anything. Oh,
you had enough warning, you were able to hold it there?
Well, yeah, he started kind of heaving. I was like, we're in the middle of the store. It was just a short training trip, and he, being young, he just, whatever was going on with him. And so I was
That's a good idea. With Molly last week, when she started heaving, he carried her into the kitchen, straining my bag. It would have been easier to carry a bag.
Yeah. So you might want to, consider what all's gonna fit. What are you gonna need? I didn't used to like fanny packs, and since doing the dogs in the last few years, I really, really like fanny packs. Fanny packs and all these pockets are great.
I actually made it for my last 2 dogs. Anytime I went, I had their I got a little doggy bag, their bowl for the water, their food, their toy, everything. We go in there.